Hi all. Thank you for the time today. Thank you for joining 5 hacking tips for this week. I have a couple of sessions coming out this week. There's a little bit of preparation involved. So I hope you enjoy it. Um, Today, I just want to cover getting started in cybersecurity. A lot of people have seen some of the recent um, discussions that I've put out on video, and they've asked, about getting started, or they've actually requested that I do videos on how to actually just get started in cybersecurity. For me, it was quite natural, so I'm a bit challenged in trying to um, probably people show people the way, um, in the sense that I basically walked into the profession from because I wanted to be an IT auditor back in the mid '90s, and I trained for that, and that quite naturally turned me into BS 7799 security auditor, and then I got into pen testing shortly after that, and one thing led to another, and even spent a large part of my career in the GRC area, um, in management. Um, so for me, it's kind of the approach is kind of hard to describe as somebody who has gotten into cybersecurity recently, but I can provide some insights. So some of the very first steps that we need to consider when we start out in cybersecurity is the basically the setup. Like, what kind of setup do I need? That's often a question that I'll see that'll pop up in some of the cybersecurity forums on Facebook or on LinkedIn. And basically, what I recommend, and it's just mine, it's the way that I've done it for the longest time. And recently, and I didn't know, I guess recently, when I say recently, the last 3 years, for the longest time, I was installing systems, especially Linux systems that I wanted to use for hacking, as just into a box or into a spare laptop that I had. But I've recently gotten out of that, because I run Windows 10 or Windows 11, and I want to have like a base OS that I know is clean and secure, and then be able to run what are basically, in a secure environment, run a hacking kit. And my flavor is Kali Linux, but for Windows 10, I do use recently is the CommandoVM install by Mondiant. That's what CommandoVM means up there, by the way, if that's throwing you off. And I favor Debian. If you look down here, um, this is a box I'm connected to. That's just a regular Debian box. It's not a Kali box, but I use that as like a callback server somewhere, that um, I want to receive an FTP, or I want to receive a C2 signal on. And that's running inside VMware. But I also have VirtualBox installed, um, and some systems that I have. For example, for malware development, I use a system that was created for VirtualBox, and I've just never converted to VMware. And then on OS X, so I've used OS X a big part of my life. I use Windows boxes a big part of my life. I'm not a fanboy of either one. Just pick your weapon and use it. In fact, even if you look inside my VMware thing, if you look really close, there's actually a big Sur install of OS X in here that I got running on a VM. Happy hacking, that's what it's about. Anyways, so that's what and for a machine, what do I recommend? This system, the system I use the most, is not my. It's quite interesting. It's not my strongest system. It's a 16 gigabyte RAM Intel i5 gaming PC, but I also have the same maker and the same brand, um, same type of PC, essentially the 17-inch version sitting behind me here, and that has 32 gigs of RAM and an i7. in it. It's just that I don't know. There's just maybe a size thing. I'm not sure. But I used this system for the longest time. That's when I studied for my OSCP and other certification. ECSA also. I was using that system. But I just grew to love this system that I'm podcasting through here right now. Um, the So, and then if you choose OS X, then there's VMware Fusion, and then you can run Kali and CommandoVM and all that on it if you use, I think, an Intel system. I'm not sure how it works with an M1. I haven't used OS X, quite frankly, lately, other than to, for example, in VMware, I got a system up and running because I had some tests doing. You're going to find that, a lot of, and the reason why I prefer to use virtual systems is, it depends. If I'm doing OSINT, I have a whole OSINT install of Ubuntu that has all the tools ready to go. If I'm doing some regular like hack the box or whatever, I just use the regular Kali that I use. And then if I'm doing some like some malware analysis or some executable analysis, I have a Debian install that's all set up for that, and I'll use that. For malware development, I use VirtualBox, and I use the Sector 7 image that was provided of Windows 10, although I've basically set up that same setup on my local box here as well. So that's, that's the first thing you need to do, is basically set up a virtual environment to hack from. I don't recommend, by the way, going out and challenging in a lot of these places, in a lot of these labs and stuff with your base install, unless you're ready to install a whole OS all over again. Although I've never been hacked, I guess I've been lucky, but I've heard that it can happen. Do you create a shared folder? Like, when you set up the virtual machine, get in the habit of understanding either VMware or VirtualBox and how to get a shared folder set up between your virtual machine and your host OS. And the reason is because you want to use that same folder, you want to access those same scripts, you want to access those same notes. And trust me, you'll be taking a lot of notes. I think that's the next point. But you're going to be wanting to access those, and maybe even throw it up on something that syncs, like a Google Drive or whatever, so that you can have access to it all the time. And that's the last thing that I recommend on like a training setup, is also consider a note-taking scheme and what you're going to use. So there's two things. One thing I haven't written here, but it's a big tip, and I recommend it. Pick your weapon, whether it's Chrome or Firefox. Log in and create a profile. Sorry about that, I hit my mic. But create a profile and allow yourself to be able to sync bookmarks, because a lot of the cheat sheets and a lot of the things that you need, the game is here. It's about tools and understanding the tools and access to the tools. And the quicker you can get to the tools and know how to use the tools, the quicker you can achieve compromise, you can lateral, it's just the quicker you get work done. And part of the proficiency in what we do is, we don't want to be sloppy, but we also don't want to be very slow either. And a lot of, for example, penetration testing is actually under a deadline quite often. It's as far as you can get during that time. You don't get the whole month to do it. So that's one thing, is bookmarks, but also is an actual note-taking thing. So I like doing outlines, and look, if I'm going to talk about Nmap, I'll do an outline of certain Nmap command configurations for example, a slow scan and getting started, or something that I need like a really quick scan. If I don't have it in my head, or I'm looking for what would be, I found a particular vulnerability, or a box that I think might have a particular vulnerability, and what would be the tool to use that, and what would be the protocol for going through that. And in the beginning, that's very important, but the more that you use the notes and the more that you look at them and the more that you face these scenarios, the less that you refer to the notes. But it's good to have them, especially if you put something down, because remember, we're talking about a very broad field of study. And if you put something down, for example, um, I haven't done malware injection on a binary in probably about 6 months now, 6 to 9 months. But I know that I have all of my notes in CherryTree is actually the program that I use for that. Uh, but pick whatever you want, whether it's OneNote or whatever out there. CherryTree is it's a GNU product. It's on Linux, it's on Mac, and it's on Windows, and that's why I like it because it's all the same format. And share and store that on your shared folder. So that's one of the things about setup is get ready to use a lot of different machines and a lot of different configurations for machines. And to do that, you need a virtual environment, but also get ready to amass scripts and that kind of thing. And the further you get along with it, you're going to realize that you have scripts that other people don't have scripts to. And that's the whole CTF thing and creating a craft. We're approaching the study, at least initially, as a cybersecurity budding expert, as to approach it as a craft and something that you actually get good at. You don't just learn how to do it, but you learn how to do it quicker and more effectively, and you're informed about the tools that are out there to both penetrate systems and then also both to protect systems. And then the last point for me, and a lot of what and I guess that's an age thing, but try hack me wasn't around when I got into like getting into labs and breaking into things and doing things in those environments. HTTP hack the box was around, and in that sense, that's why I tend to talk about hack the box. The walkthrough I did last week was something off of, or 2 weeks ago was off of hack the box, and understand one thing also is when you set up the VPN, and this is something that a lot of beginners get stuck on, is on their host OS or on their Windows box or their Mac box, they'll get the VPN going with hack the box. And if they don't have some kind of route set up with VMware or with VirtualBox to route the traffic from their virtual machine, then that VPN will not tunnel traffic to hack the box. So you can either figure that out. I haven't done it. I haven't even bothered. But what I do is I basically tunnel from the virtual machine to hack the box. And if that's what I'm going to use to penetrate that machine on hack the box. So for example, if it's going to be a Windows machine on the other side and I want to use some Windows tools, I might use CommandoVM. But generally, I'll use like a Kali box or something, especially in those lab environments. It'll be a Kali box. And on that Kali box, I'll use OpenVPN to VPN into hack the box. I might do a separate session on just showing you how to do it from Kali. If you want it, let me know. But there's also Try Hack Me out there. So there's other lab environments and other competitors with Hack the Box. I just think Hack the Box probably been around the longest, and it's the first one I started with years ago, and it's what I've been using. So this isn't this is like the startup page of Hack the Box. When I started, you you couldn't just join. You had to, like, they had a page with a login or a code or something, and you had to get that in order to get in to be able to sign up. But I think now you can actually just go in. And I've already signed in here. This is a newer account that I've set up. But here's what I wanted to show you, and I didn't realize this, but and this is the final system. I haven't done this yet, and they're quite interesting for me. And for a lot of people, they would actually be quite simple. But if you're a beginner and you want to get into like understanding how pen testers work, and then also taking that back, and if you're like in IT support and IT architecture, to understand how that works to strengthen your systems. But you can see here, they walk you right through it. So this is a system, it's called Unified. And you basically go in and it shows you step by step. It says, okay, you have to connect via VPN, or you can spawn here in a web tab, a pawn box, and just use that to attack this system. And then from there, this button will get enabled and it'll say spawn machine. So along the way, you're getting points here as you go along and unlock things. And it, you know, it says what ports are open, and you know that it's going to ask for the name of the highest running port. So, you know, you look at that and you try and figure out what kind of software is running, and it just walks you through it. I didn't have this when I started out. So, you know, I think that's something to really take advantage of. And then also on, you know, to give some credit. Let's see, I thought I pulled it up, but on Try Hack Me, they have a curriculum on there that actually sets out as a like a junior penetration testing kind of certification, and it's a nominal. I think you can go through it with the trial, or a nominal subscription, and that's a good place to start as well. I've heard a lot of comments about. Like I said, I haven't done it, but a lot of people have commented on it on LinkedIn and also Twitter as well. So based on that, I would say, yeah, probably give that a try as well. Anything is better than nothing. But first off, what a lot of people get stuck on is how to set up their system, or what kind of system do they need. Like I said, I'm running, you know, at minimum an i5 and I don't know, I forgot which generation it is, but it's, I think I picked this up in 2019 or 2020. So, you know, it's that generation of an i5 running with 16 gigs of RAM. And the reason why I recommend so much RAM is because, and I actually recommend 32 gigs. And the reason is because when you're running a virtual machine on top of a host, you kind of want the power. And sometimes you want to run a couple virtual machines if, you know, you think you've got a tool somewhere across the way that you can pull in. And to keep from having to run virtual machines just to grab tools, that's another reason to use a shared folder. I hope this was a help. If you have any comments or suggestions, please, you know, hit like or add a comment, and please subscribe. Thank you.